Hello, everybody. Would like to welcome to Telrad Google CBRS webinar. Are you ready for the CBRS? We're going to give a few minutes for the rest of the gang to join in, and we will start momentarily. Hello, everybody. Would like to just give a quick reminder. We're waiting for a couple more minutes for more people to join in, and we will start webinar in about 2 minutes. Okay, let's start. Welcome. My name is Alex Frelkman. I'm VP of Sales with Telrad Networks. This is a joint webinar, Google with Telrad, primarily talking about the CBRS, and if you are ready for that. As you know, we have a long-standing relationship with Google, and phenomenal team of people that's developing quite an amazing product. And we're gonna split webinar in 2 portions. I'll pass the microphone in a little bit to Google team. I would like to Rob and Josh. Rob is business development manager with Google SaaS products, and Josh pretty much is the person for all CBRS related products. He is the product designer for Network Planner and SaaS portal. So make sure to write down his email and mobile number. If you don't like what you see, you could just shoot email straight to him. So on a serious note, I will pass the microphone to Josh and Rob in a little bit. Would like to have a quick review about Telrad, who is not familiar with us, who we are, and we're going to continue. So Telrad has been in business for almost 70 years. We started in the telecom and the telephony world. Then in early 2010s, we acquired intellectual property and assets of a company called Alvarian, took the wireless portion of it and continue running forward, introducing LTE. With introduction of CBRS for Telrad, LTE was a software migration. So all of our customers, all of our 3.5 gig customers can enjoy, in the United States, can enjoy soft migration into CBRS. 5 out of 6 CPEs, customer premise equipment, are CBRS compliant or going to be CBRS compliant. Only one still not, which is hopefully, if everything goes well, we will get a certification within the next 1 to 2 weeks, and that's going to complete that process. So we have, as you can imagine, we have networks globally in the United States. We have an access to 100 some customers with tens of thousands of devices deployed. So for us, it was very important to make sure that there is a seamless migration path into CBRS. Some of our customers, obviously big and small, we love everybody. Anything from one base station, one subscriber units to hundreds of base stations and thousands of CPEs. Some of the names are familiar, some of the names are not, but we're always open if you want to talk to our existing accounts as a reference point for new customers, as a reference points or existing customers to share some expertise and know-how. We're more than welcome to connect and make the introductions. Where can Telrad be used? It can be used across multiple verticals. We're talking about fixed wireless broadband, we're talking about municipality, we're talking about residential, nomadic networks. It's an LTE, right? It's a transport. So with that in mind, CBRS becomes an extreme, it's an important venue and way for us and for you, for our customers, to get access to additional spectrum, because spectrum is the name of the game. The more spectrum you have, the better, the faster services you can provide. And at the end of the day, we see an exponential growth in the need for additional spectrum, for speeds, and efficiency can take you only so far. We still need more spectrum, and CBRS is a phenomenal way to get access to in a shared manner. So Google comes in with phenomenal platform as a SaaS administrator. There are a number of them. Google was there early in the game and provided very interesting tools and know-how and obviously the branding behind. On that note, I would like to pass the microphone over to Rob and Josh, and they will be able to talk a little bit more about their system and its capabilities. And feel free to submit your questions through the chat. We will try to answer them either in real time or leave a time slot towards the end to answer them. If we're gonna bleed out of time slot, we will see based on if you want to stay a little bit longer, or we could just have an offline session and just blast the answers to unanswered questions as we did last time, since it's just too many that people were asking. So Josh, Rob, please take it from here.
Okay, great. Alex, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having us out here to speak with your customers. And thank you everyone for who's attending. My name is Rob Ketcher. I'm in business development here at Google for our CBRS related products. And I'm joined by my colleague. Josh, you want to say hello?
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to share my screen real quick. Okay, here we go. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Thanks, Rob. Yes, I'm the product designer for Network Planner and SaaS Portal. And go ahead, Rob. I'll be looking forward to the demo at the end.
Okay, great. All right, so just go, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead to the next slide. There we go. Okay, so I like to start these off, just give a little bit of context for why Google cares about CBRS. Our products, our customers access our products over the internet. They need high quality internet connections to have a great experience with our products. So our group at Google, go to the next slide, Josh. Our group at Google is actually created to foster what we call wireless abundance. And that's a fancy way of saying better internet for more people in more places. There's a number of areas here in the US where wireless isn't as good as we want it to be. And we focus on those areas like dense urban areas, in building, as well as rural areas, which many of you are out on the front line serving. Google has been a longtime advocate for CBRS, and we have members from our company who serve on the board of the CBRS Alliance, Wing Forum. We're active both at standard bodies at the policy level, and we want CBRS to succeed. And I think this is important to understand Google's motivations. We believe that if CBRS is successful, there's a lot more spectrum that can be unlocked. So we're in this not just for CBRS, but for a long haul here. Okay, so as you can see from the slide that Josh has up here, CBRS is going like gangbusters. And since the launch of full commercial at the end of January, we've seen very, very rapid growth. Really a good up and to the right chart. Okay, next slide. All right, let's talk about the technology that Google brings to the table for CBRS. So first of all, we have a product suite. We offer a spectrum access system, which controls fundamental access to spectrum. We have a network planner, which is like Google Earth with network planning built in. And we offer online training, where we make it really easy to become a certified professional installer. Next slide. At the foundation of our spectrum access system and network planner to some extent as well is Google's ability to do reliability, build a reliable cloud service at scale. CBRS is a little different than networks that you've run in the past, that your network now depends on a third-party cloud service. Google already operates 8 products with over 1 billion monthly active users, and we're bringing that same level of reliability to your CBRS networks. Next slide. Google also has a very unique set of assets for the CBRS ecosystem. When you combine nationwide high-res geodata with a best-of-breed propagation engine, and you run that all in Google Cloud so it can scale up and run incredibly quickly, you get the foundation for being able to maximize spectrum. Google can, using our assets, we can maximize spectrum for everybody, everybody who's operating networks. And that's really important. And we can also help answer questions around business questions that you might have about your network to help make better decisions. Okay, next slide. I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about our geodata. I'm sure you're all familiar with it from things like Google Earth and Google Maps and Street View and Satellite View. And I'd like to give you a little bit of a peek underneath the hood about how this data is created and how it comes to life. So go ahead to the next slide, Josh. So the way Google collects images, all these high-res images, we're actually flying planes and driving cars all around the country. We fly planes at different altitudes to create a stereo image. And this is a massive, massive amount of high-res images that are coming back into Google, where they are then run through a pipeline. And in that pipeline, we're extracting out, we're running machine learning-based image recognition algorithms to be able to identify what's a tree, what's a building, and then we then transform that data further in the cloud, and where we're able to model real-world characteristics. Things like, what's the slope of the roof? What's the height of that actual tree? And doing things like mapping addresses to coordinates, GPS coordinates. Okay, next slide. Now, in terms of collecting images, we have high-res image data for 99% of the population, including rural areas. So it's a tremendous amount of coverage throughout the U.S. Next slide. That just gives you a sense of the scale. Now, when that data, and here's where I'm going to give you a little peek underneath the hood. When that data comes back into Google, it runs through one of two pipelines. And there's a premium pipeline where you're going to get the best, most accurate real-world 3D characteristics. You'll get slopes of the stadium and the heights of the trees and all kinds of goodies. A very, very detailed 3D view of the world. And then, so if you've ever gone into Google Earth and you pan into 3D view and you see this really detailed view, that means the premium version has been run. And then we also have a basic version of the pipeline, and that tends to produce it's still a good 3D view of the world, but it's not our best. And just to give you a sense of the difference between these two versions, the premium version is 16 times more computationally intensive. So this is a very, very intensive pipeline. This takes literally months to run for just given all the amount of data that it's crunching. So when we looked out into rural areas, we felt like, you know what, this data it's not as good as it can be for you guys, you are customers, when you're thinking about planning out your network or you want to maximize your spectrum usage. So flip to the next slide. So when in Q4 of last year, so Q4 2019, we had premium data in 4% of the land area. So it covered a majority of the population, but it was focused on denser areas, higher population density areas. Now, where are we today? We've been investing heavily in this, spending millions of dollars to bring that high quality data out to areas that you guys care about. And today we're over 70% of land coverage. We're expanding rapidly, and we'll expect to be full coverage, completely covered nationwide by Q4 of this year. In Q4 of this year, excuse me. So, okay, so let's, and just one clarification that I think is worth noting, our team's actually a little bit ahead of the Google Earth team. So if you go into Google Earth and you do the 3D view, it still might look flat in Google Earth, but even though it might be the premium data that's accessible to our team, to the Spectrum Access System and Network Planner. Okay, let's talk about the Network Planner. So the Network Planner, like I mentioned, it's like Google Earth with network planning built in. We're bringing that powerful network planning, bringing it right to a browser. So next slide. We focused a lot of time on the WISP use cases and how can the Network Planner help your business. So we have many customers today who are using the Network Planner to do things like decide where to build their network, decide when to roll a truck. So a sales agent might receive a call from a customer, the customer gives them an address, and that agent wants to decide, should I roll the truck, should I not roll the truck? And with the network planner, you can answer that very rapidly. And we've even seen customers using this out in the field. So a technician goes out to a home and wants to decide where to place the customer premise equipment, where to point, which tower should they point it to. And so yeah, network planner, very helpful for answering these types of business questions. Flip to the next slide. So as much as talking about the network planner, talking about the network planner can only do so much. So I'm actually going to turn it over to my colleague now, Josh, who's going to demo the network planner and just show you some of the new goodies that we've been bringing to the product.
Cool, thanks, Rob. Okay, I'm actually going to focus really on, I think, these three key points that you mentioned here about, planning a network, where you want to build your actual network, and then, the customer service side, and then, like we mentioned, actual installs. So I'm going to switch over to just a demo project that I had set up here to actually demonstrate some of the auto planning work that we've been done to help you plan your network. So one of the common use cases that we hear is you might have a set of towers that you have access to, or maybe a database of poles that you're able to mount equipment to, but you need an efficient way to limit that set of potential sites to one that's actually going to get you, essentially the best bang for your buck, the most coverage you can possibly get with the least number of towers or least number of devices. So in this example, what I've done is actually just come in here and quickly added about 70 or so what we call sites, and then I attached an omnidirectional and device to each of these sites. So if I just zoom in, what I can show you, as Rob had mentioned, this is essentially Google Maps with planning built in. So what I've done is I've attached a site here, and then attached a device, an omnidirectional, an isotropic antenna, set it to the maximum power for CBRS, and then I can configure the height of that. If this were a sector antenna, I could control the direction it's pointing. But for this demonstration, basically what I did is I copied a large number of sites and then drew a boundary around this harbor in San Diego that I am maybe interested in covering, and was able to run auto planning, which then will give me a Pareto curve, or a list of a chart that shows me the cost versus coverage. And you can see highlighted in pink are the sites that this algorithm has selected for me. So what I'm showing here is that if I just use 7 of those 68 or so sites, I can get 85% of the coverage. Whereas if maybe I drop this down to 3 sites, I might still be happy with 60% coverage. And then from here, I can create a new project with these sites and then actually run coverage. So for demonstration purposes, what I've set up is I actually ran coverage results with like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these sites, just to see what that would look like, and then actually duplicated that into a different project. Let me open that up. So I have this other San Diego solution, and then ran my coverage results, and I can still see my heat map with a far smaller set of sites, still providing me pretty good coverage here. So this is a quick way that you can plan your network if you have a database of sites, or some sites that you have access to, but you don't want to have to do the slow process of maybe turning one off, running propagation again. This can kind of speed up the expansion of your networks.
Josh, I'm just going to jump in for 1 second, and
go ahead.
The demo that Josh is showing off here is more geared around mobility, but auto planning, this is a very early feature. This is not yet a released feature, but the reason we're showing it to you guys, because we understand most of you out there are likely doing more fixed wireless scenarios, but this just gives you an idea of where we're headed, that we're going to bring this type of auto planning. We intend to bring this type of auto planning even to the fixed wireless scenarios. So it just gives you the idea of the power of being able to run this all in the cloud. This all can run extremely quickly.
Yeah. And so the next example I wanted to show here is definitely more of a fixed wireless use case. So what I've got set up, what I'm showing here is an example network. This is actually in Utah. I'm already showing, so I've ran propagation already on these 5 sites. And what I can see, I can change my propagation results to show me, the best server. Sure, you're familiar. Receive power is probably the big one that I want to look at here. And I can see, this heat map gives me a pretty good sense of the coverage that this set of towers is providing. But more importantly, with fixed wireless, what you want to know is, do I have line of sight to a particular house? And so one of the new studies that we're soon to be launching is line of sight. So what I can do is quickly see a view shed from each of those towers. Where are they reaching? And what's, from zoomed out, it just looks, it's a little bit difficult to tell what's going on. But when I zoom in, what's really interesting is I can now start to really make out the roofs of each of these houses and where we have determined that we provide line of sight from any of those towers. So for example, if I just click on this point here, it's going to drop a pin for me and then trace a line from that point to all of the sites that are within, I think it's 10 kilometers. And then we actually trace, we'll color code that line depending on whether or not we provide line of sight. So in this example, I chose a house at random, but what I can see is we're confident that you have line of sight from this cell tower up here on that hill down to that house. And the way that we can prove that or demonstrate that, so I'm trying to wrangle the go to webinar panel. Okay, so the way that we can see that is I know, just because I've been looking at this network before, that these towers are way up on a hill, but I can actually view on this path profile, which is a horizontal cut through the geodata that we have. I can see the tower here on the left and the actual customer, the house that I clicked on down here on the right. And we can show, the Fresnel zone is illustrated on here. So I can see that this is pretty much clear. There might be a little tiny bit of obstruction right here closer to that house, but it's nice and easy to actually zoom in here. And I can even hover over this point. And if I switch to satellite mode, I can see for myself that it looks like there's a house there. And our geodata is demonstrating that, we captured that. Another interesting example that we've referenced a few times, if you've seen this demo at WISP America or WISPA Palooza, you might be familiar with what. Let me actually, not sure why that's not searching for me. There we go. Okay. So this was a nice example, I think, that really shows off the geodata that we have under the hood. So I put an address that's placed this pin here on this rooftop. And what I'm showing is that I have 2 sites with, 2 towers with clear line of sight, but this one that's partially obstructed. And if I click on that line, it'll quickly demonstrate if I zoom in. So on the left, I'm showing the tower, and on the right is that rooftop. And if I zoom in nice and close, what I'm actually able to see is that this particular point on the rooftop is actually partially obstructed by the rooftop itself. So you can imagine, if you're trying to determine where to place the CPE, what if I drag and I move that location actually to just the opposite side of the rooftop, and now I can update my path profile and zoom back in. Now we can see that I have a perfectly clear line of sight from this corner of the rooftop back to that tower. So super quick and easy way to determine from your computer if you think that a customer might actually have line of sight and they're worth sending a truck out to. And then, in addition to that, what we're able to do over here on the right side, I can show, we're showing the distance from the tower to this point, but also the reverse azimuth. So if you have an installer in the field and they need to know which way to point that CPE, this should give them a pretty good idea of, where to expect that tower to be if they don't already know where that is offhand. Let's see. So the last thing that I wanted to touch on, and I think this is maybe a little bit early to show off, but you might be noticing down here on the right side, I'm showing the spectrum availability bars. And what that's intended to do is actually give you a sense of the available CBRS spectrum for this particular location. And in this case, we're showing both Cat A and Cat B devices and which channels are going to have power available. If you actually had a specific device configured, so if I come up here to that tower and I click on it, this is now refreshing, and it's checking with RSAS to determine what the spectrum availability would be for this particular device. And what I can see now is this is a Cat B device, and it looks like the first 10 channels have full spectrum available, but down here, the bottom 5 are unavailable. And one other thing I can show in regards to that, I actually have some example or some test sort of overlays that we're including here. So I didn't turn those off. But what I'm able to see here now is an actual heat map where we know that there is some channel availability in CBRS. And this is actually for the entire nation. And so if I zoom out and let this load, it's quite a large heat map. What we can show you here is channel availability across all of CBRS. And then in some areas where we haven't yet deployed the sensors, so this is the pending ESC deployment, that's indicated in this blue section. And then anything in the very dark blue is just unavailable for now. I mean, actually, I think these are permanently unavailable, whereas the bluer sections will eventually become available as we deploy our ESC network. Rob, was there anything you want to add to this heat map or anything that I've shown so far?
No, I think this is great, Josh. Thank you. We could get into some of the nuances if it's helpful, but just some of the areas that Josh is showing on the on the very, very coasts that involves some blockage of what's referred to as a whisper zone, where you see the spectrum is completely unavailable, but we do expect that to be cleared up at some point. That's still pending. Okay, cool. Josh, you want to just flip back over to the slide?
Sure, no problem.
And we'll wrap this one up.
Great.
Okay, so cool. So Josh showed off a number of new features like our spectrum availability heat maps, the path profile, the line of sight coverage. We didn't show off the address importer, but that is something you can do in the network planner as well. So if you have a set of addresses, you're moving into a new area, you have a set of addresses, you can load them all into the network planner, and you can then run your line of sight coverage on top of it. So
yeah, Rob,
coverage is not.
I actually have that enabled in this project. I just forgot to turn that on. Let me actually jump back, and I'll just show this very quickly. Yeah. So now I've re-enabled an import of addresses that we had previously. And now what you'll see in this heat map is these purple circles indicate that there's a number of addresses underneath that dot. So now I can show I imported a set of addresses, and then from each of those addresses, I can click on those and then also evaluate line of sight coverage. So in this case, I wouldn't have to type each address in manually. Rather, I could view these one at a time. And one of the things that we're working on next is generating a report from this list of addresses, so I can quickly see at a glance which of those addresses do have line of sight and maybe what level of signal strength we can provide to each of those addresses. So sorry, I left that out. I wanted to make sure that we showed that off. That was definitely something worth covering.
Thank you, Josh. And of course, as everyone probably gets right away, this is all running in the cloud. You can share projects with others. It's accessible from any browser. So really powerful stuff. Okay, next slide. So we showed off a little bit of some of the roadmap and things that we're working on over the next few quarters, including auto planning. We also intend to bring multi-band into a single project, include PAL support, as well as channel guidance, which is coming quite soon. And channel guidance is really our first coexistence feature, where we can help maximize the spectrum for everyone involved. Okay, next slide. So the Network Planner is exclusive to Google SaaS customers here in the US. We're continuing to expand early access, so you can sign up at g.co/sharedspectrum, sign up for our SaaS service, request access to the Network Planner, and we'll get you set up. Next slide. Pricing. All right. Next slide. So SaaS service for fixed wireless is $2.25 per residence per month. The way we count residents is a CBSD to CBSD link. So you set up a base station, you connect it to 5 CPE CBSDs, and we take 5 times $2.25, and that's your bill for the month. There would be no charge for the base station in a pure CBSD to CBSD connection situation. Next slide. And also worth noting, there's no lock-in. This is a pure on-demand cloud service, come and go as you like. So CPI certification is $599 for the full package, where you're registered with WinForm and you can start installing devices. Then $399 if you just want to kind of quote unquote audit and take the online training without becoming a full-fledged CPI. Next slide. Okay, and we're in full commercial, so you can get started now. Sign up at g.co/sharedspectrum and apply for Network Planner Early Access if that's something that's of interest. So I want to thank you again for sticking with us here. And I think, Alex, I'll turn it back to you, but I think we're going to go to questions now.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Josh. So we do have about 453 questions right now. So hopefully everybody has enough time.
That's a lot of questions.
First, so Christopher was bringing some interesting questions and clarifications, and one of them was the basic and premium data pipelines help with the network building tools, I assume. So can you guys collaborate a little bit more about the two data sets, please?
Yeah, can you repeat the question again, Alex? I actually didn't quite catch that.
It was right at the beginning of your slides when you were going through different data data pipelines. So these basic and premium data pipelines help with network building tool, I assume. So that's can he use this data to build the network, basically? To plan
yes, absolutely, and that's right. So really what I was painting the picture of was that if you roll the clock back 7-8 months, we had pretty limited geographic coverage of our premium data, and that it's really our quote unquote best data for network planning, and as well as for SAS coverage, for SAS spectrum allocation calculations. And we've been investing heavily because we care about CBRS and we want you guys to be successful. We've been investing heavily to bring that same high quality data out to the areas that you care about. And we're currently at about 70% coverage, geographic coverage in the US. We'll be at full coverage by Q4 2020, or Q4 of this year. And all that data is available to you within the Network Planner. Absolutely.
Awesome.
And for clarity, right now, there is no charge for the Network Planner. During the early access period, it's free. We do intend to charge for the product at some point down the road, but right now it's the good news is it's free.
Awesome. One more question from Stefan. He is interested if Network Planner is also available with different frequency bands.
Yes, thank you so much for asking that. And this seems to be a point of confusion sometimes, The network planner supports everything 6 gig and under. So if you're running, I know a lot of you run 5 gigahertz, you can plan your networks with the network planner for 5 gig, 2.4 gig, whatever. Absolutely.
Awesome. Next, let's see. Whisper zone. It has to do with whisper zones. After I thought about some channel availability has to due to the military radar. Yes, that is correct. Due to the Navy activity or in-command protections. Okay, question from Pete. Hi, Pete. I know you're on mute. If he would like to double check, and for Pete, it's very important, primarily the East Coast, if your ESC network is complete on the East Coast.
Yeah, it's complete for everything except some portions of South Florida, like Miami. We've not completed the ESC network in Miami yet. Whereas, but yeah, anywhere else along the East Coast, you're all set.
Awesome. And he is also interested if data also includes a LiDAR, if you use LiDAR to collect geodata.
Yeah, so the geodata that we rely on for the Spectrum Access System and the network planner is primarily the plane data, which is just a high-res image and not LiDAR. LiDAR is really for under the canopy type images.
Awesome. Sounds good. Yeah. All right, guys. Please feel free to continue sending your questions. I would like to talk a little bit more about Telrad's portion and how we tie with Google. So you guys, so our current customer, existing customers, and future customers could understand how things really play, because what's Google developing on a SaaS as a SaaS platform is quite phenomenal. The network planning is it's amazing tool, and if anyone done network planning and was waiting for rendering for calculating the interference, in some instances it may take hours or days. With Google it takes seconds and minutes. So the backend computing engine is quite amazing, and is definitely very useful for large scale projects. So to continue further my earlier message, what I started before I passed the microphone to Rob and Josh is, for Telrad, continuity was an important aspect of how do we continue to serve our customers with existing infrastructure, with existing base stations, with existing CPEs, so current networks could be migrated into the CBRS. And we saw the best way to deliver that continuity is by introducing domain proxy. And domain proxy basically sits in the middle between Google and Telrad network. For our customers that know Telrad networks, they very familiar with BreezeView tool. So BreezeView basically added one more function to it, and it becomes that centralized communication element that handles the heartbeats, that handles grant requests, and so on. So for existing customers that do want let's say migrate networks into CBRS, it can be, yeah, sure, there is a setup involved, but from that point on it becomes quite seamless process where you simply identify the devices, the subscriber units that are already within the BreezeView, and simply push them into SaaS with one-step registration. And we also have a two-step registration for customers that do want to take advantage of some additional features that that Josh was talking about with planning and so on. So we work both ways. Both options are on the table. There is no extra fee for it. Like Rob mentioned earlier, right now Network Planner is free, but eventually it's probably going to have some costs. So, but Rob, we would like it to be free forever. So just in case, if you can do it, I would appreciate.
We'll see what we can do, Alex. No promises there.
But there is quite a bit of interesting things. That's the dynamics. Moreover, if you are located in the DPA, in dynamic protection areas, and Pete, for example, that would be a good scenario for you. There are some nuances that come at the time when grants, when there is a Navy presence and grant needs to be suspended, and there is quite a bit of work happening between Google and us on the back end to make sure that there is a continuity. And so we're building this layer of logic on top of standard CBRS protocol that will allow you to maintain the connectivity, because at the end of the day, that's how customers are going to judge us and you. If they don't care that the aircraft is in a couple hundred miles off. What they care is, do I have a connectivity or not? And we understand that that may be an issue, and that is really out of our control. So to address that, we look at different elements, different mechanisms that will provide you that continuity. We also introducing a concept this year of base station chaining, where you can combine 3 gigahertz CBRS base stations with 5 gigahertz and offer this dual band connectivity to your customers. So in case if things do go wrong and all channels are not available at all, you still be able to provide connectivity to your customers over an unlicensed LTE, and they work together in parallel with CBRS. So at the moment that grant is being provided back, system will normalize, stabilize, and continue offering connectivity over 2 different frequencies, thus also doubling its throughput. Just a quick update. So first of all, we've released our financials earlier this week, and Q1 was phenomenal for our company. We were able in last year in general, and I would like to thank our customers and partners, distributors, resellers for sticking with us through the challenging times and helping us to overcome the go through reorg and bring company back into profitability. So it's quite amazing what we've done in past year. So job is not done. We're continue moving forward. We're still working through finishing certification of our equipment. So we currently have our compact base stations that are fully CBRS certified. CP9000, both flavors, standard gain and high gains are certified. CP8100 is certified. CP8000 received certification late last week. Hooray for that. And CP12000 with pending certification, we expect it actually any day, maybe within 1 to 2 weeks latest. And at that point, all of our devices will be fully CBRS compliant. So there are going to be no impeding factor for current customers to move into fully move into the CBRS. So no difference. Compact 1000 platform is our workhorse, and recently introduced 5 gigahertz. It's all based on the same LTE baseband, same software, except we give you capability of chaining those two together, the CBRS and 5 gigahertz, and either offering higher level of service, more throughput, better packages, or a failover capability in case if no CBRS channel is available for a particular period of time. As if you know, if you're familiar with Telrad, again, there are 6 different ways how you can deploy a single base station, and it's quite phenomenal piece of hardware. Has a very strong near and non-line of sight capabilities. So sure, you do want line of sight if you can. However, we understand that it's not always an option, and it's not always available. And Fresnel zone often is being abstracted, and it may be available in the in the winter, but not available in the summer. So so people that are familiar with Telrad know that we do make some very interesting shots. We do offer some very interesting shots. 5 gigahertz is no different to that. It also brings the same DNA, same technology that allows you to work under near and non-line of sight. So you will find it to be a very interesting product just on its own to begin with. And then obviously the ability to combine both of those is also important. So some of the online resources I would like to emphasize point. Obviously Telrad, we do have very well-built information page for Telrad/CBRS that will give you some Q&As, and it's very extensive. Obviously, we conduct webinars, educational webinars and training webinars to help our existing customers migrate into CBRS. They're live. We obviously record those as well. So if you can't align your schedule, just give us a shout, and we will send you a link to one of the pre-recorded migration webinars that talks more in detail about the Breeze view and how it works with Google and how we tie things together. I also would like to highly recommend Google SaaS office hours. Ethan used to do those. I'm not sure who does those right now, but it's amazing. It's going to be an amazing hour. So please write it down, http://g.co/SaaS webinar. Tomorrow, by the way, if you go there, you will see it's going to take you straight to the YouTube YouTube page. And Friday is the day when Google conducts those. And I highly recommend, again, to spend time and learn a little bit more about latest and the greatest that Google has to provide. Now, there were a couple more questions. One from Susan. What areas do you lack for EST Premium in the middle of the US? Okay, so Susan is curious if premium data is available middle of the United States. Rob.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. When we say 70% coverage, that's a snapshot of where we are today. We're expanding that rapidly. If you actually watch our webinar from 1 month ago, we were at 60%. So we're already at 70% with the goal of being at full coverage by in Q4 this year. And so that includes many rural areas even right now.
Awesome, thank you. Susan, I think I owe you a call back. I know you're probably kicking your computer right now. So if you don't mind, let's pencil in sometime next week, and we will chat and have a follow-up discussion. All right. On that note, I think I've exhausted my action items. Rob, Josh, do you have anything else to comment, say?
Yeah, I'll just add one thing here about just in terms of online resources. You can also check out our support site, support.google.com/SaaS, SAS. And there's a lot of good information on there, just learning about how SaaS works and registration and all kinds of good info on our support site if people are interested in reading and learning more. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're 1 hour 55 minutes. We're 5 minutes ahead of schedule. So thanks everybody. I really appreciate your time joining us today and spending those wonderful 55 minutes with us. Any additional questions, feel free to direct them to us, to Telrad, sales-na@telrad.com. You can send them to marketing@Telrad. Google related questions, we could forward them straight to Rob to handle or to answer. And thank you again, and we look forward speaking with you soon individually. All right, thanks Rob, thanks Josh.
Well, a huge thank you to everyone who attended. We really appreciate it. And to Telrad, it's always enjoy working with you guys, and thank you for having us.
Awesome, thanks.
Okay, bye-bye now, everybody.
Bye.